My experience of being your wife as you have navigated a cancer diagnosis that's been uncertain has been so beautiful and so inspiring. You give me courage. One thing we're learning to do in grief is to actually grieve. I think we cry and we talk and we work through the things in ways we used to kind of close ourselves off to, because it feels like when you're in grief that you want to protect yourself from it. Really, the only way through is to feel it. And that's where community comes in and is so important, is having your people around you as you are wrestling around and punching and crying and falling apart. But to really feel it is the only way through it and the quickest way through it.
So how do you have gratitude? How do you hold gratitude and grief?
I think the way I've been able to have gratitude and grief is the lived history with God. So starting with your cancer diagnosis, but not ending there. I mean, loss of relationship and our current situation with your relationship with your dad, and so many griefs through life, but having the history that I do have with God being with me in it, knowing He will be with me again. The real time Jesus sitting next to me in the things I have to face that are hard and sad. I think because He has been there and I know He will be, there's this sense of gratitude that comes from that. I think it's such a different journey for each spouse, right? You're the one with cancer and I'm the one with a husband with cancer. And those are two really different paths. Yep. My experience of being your wife as you have navigated a cancer diagnosis that's been uncertain has been so beautiful and so inspiring. You give me courage. I've watched you live the things you say you believe authentically, and in the midst of situations we both wish we could throw into the pit of hell. So in each section of the book, there's one chapter from my perspective, and there's one called Seen, and Tim didn't know that I was writing it until it was written. It's my love letter to you as I watched you navigate a lot of physical pain and suffering in the early years of your diagnosis and all of the treatments and hospital stays. I watched you just radically love people around you. Through the fog of morphine, the deep places of physical pain that you were in, you still insisted on seeing people and loving them. And that's who I always knew that you were, but that you still were that person in your darkest places spoke so much to me about the authenticity of your faith. So that's one learning that I've had with you. And you've continued to be that person, whether recovery from surgery, where you've been cut clean open and it's weeks and weeks of healing, to having the insane experience of a movie being portrayed of your life. And you see people the same way and you love people the same way. So I love that in writing this book about grief and gratitude, I get to watch you live that. And you change me.
I think you've taught me how to grieve as I think about your path of grief. Watching you grieve early on gave me so much permission to grieve well and to lean into grieving and not just say, I'm just going to be grateful for today, but to lean into grief. The only way that I've been able to continue the experiment of following Jesus, which is all through this book, is partnering with you in this. Like, that has been the greatest gift. So to even write this book is really just a gift to me that we got to celebrate and like live this stuff out together. And that we're still today waking up again going, okay, Jesus, what do you have for the rest of our lives? But mostly just for the rest of this day. I think what's so special about this book is that it's not just stories about our sorrow or our grief or our gratitude. But there are invitations in this in the way of practices. So every section has a bunch of practices that's inviting all of us to lean into. I think we're so fat on our theology and content, on like, this is what I believe about God, but so anemic on practicing this stuff. And what I love about this book is it's inviting us to practice things. It's so practical. And that was kind of our main point, was like, let's tell these stories so that it leads to practices. Yeah. Jesus says, whoever hears my words and puts them into practice is wise. It's like building your house on a rock. If not, it's like building a house on sand. So whenever somebody reads this book, they're hearing Jesus say, whoever hears my words and puts them into practice is wise. Not loved more, but just wise. It's like building your house on a rock. So I hope people pick this book up and read these stories, laugh, they cry. They're invited to love their neighbor better, love their spouse or their best friend or roommate better. But then just how to join Jesus simply, that it's not this heavy yoke, but it's actually rest. And the fruit of the Spirit is actually a real thing that I think this book is inviting us into. And that the fruit of the Spirit is actually not for me, but it's for you. It's for the people around us. So my hope is that when people read this book, they are changed.